Given that you believe human beings are exacerbating climate change, shouldn't you agree that we ought to transition away from fossil fuels?
Well, no, I don't agree with that. My contention is I don't know. I do believe global temperatures are rising. I'm not willing to say definitively it's anthropogenic, meaning it's human activity. But if you connect the two, I asked the question I asked earlier, how much? Are there any other contributing factors to rising global temperatures other than human activity? If so, what are they, and to what degree do they factor into rising global temperatures? But sure, you want to follow up on that?
Yeah, I was wondering, how can you not know whether climate change is happening when a recent survey of 88,125 climate-related studies done by Institute of Physics cites that more than 99.9% of peer-reviewed scientific papers agree that climate change is caused by human activities?
How much? So how much of the global temperature rising is because of human activity? No. What percentage? Is it 70%, 80%, 85%, 5%, 1%? Because that's not what the study said. They're saying that human activity is contributing to part of the increase. What part? They don't know. That's debated.
Can I answer that?
Sure.
So like there's actually a statistics or a study done that suggests that climate related disasters are 8 times more likely than in 1980s.
Well, hold on a second. You know that we have less people dying because of quote unquote climate related disasters thanks to fossil fuels. We have less people dying because of extreme exposure to cold, hurricanes, because of the advancements we have thanks to fossil fuels. You know, this idea, it's very interesting in modern society. We take for granted the idea of having widespread shelter, heating, or air conditioning in extreme climates thanks to hydrocarbons, we take for granted. That used to be a leading cause of death of human beings up until 1850s. Now, if I posit your contention, climate-related catastrophes, even though, according to peer-reviewed studies, that climate-related catastrophe death is actually at all-time low, the question is then for you, which is, what would you get rid of, when, and what would the cost of that be? That is the question, so please answer that.
Well, I was just wondering, like, you know, you didn't really answer my question, but I was, obviously I can't give you like exact percentage of numbers, but I do think that we ought to transition away from fossil fuel, right? Like, I'm not against growth or development. I obviously agree with you that, you know, the Industrial Revolution, like economic growth is good. It's lifting people out of poverty. That's obviously good, right? But in developed countries today, where we have the ability to not damage our economy, but also benefit the environment, shouldn't we do that?
Okay, so give me an example. What specifically would you ban? You're king for a day. What would you ban? Would you ban liquid natural gas? Would you ban nuclear? Would you ban fracking? Would you ban, what kind of hydrocarbons would you ban? Give me the examples, and you're king for a day. What would you do?
Well, see, I wouldn't like straight up ban something, right? And so I'm not advocating for like, you know, just like fossil fuels, we end fossil fuels like immediately.
That's a mature answer. Good for you. No, I mean that. That's because the radicals don't always say that. Please continue.
Right. So I'll argue for like market-based solutions, a transition away. Like for example, I think in 2020, like the government funded $5.9 trillion to fossil fuel companies. I would say that instead of investing this money, $5.9 trillion to fossil fuel companies.
That doesn't sound right. But you might be in tax credits, maybe, or tax breaks. That doesn't sound right.
Subsidies.
No, that's 5.9 billion, probably not trillion. There's no way.
It's trillion.
Yeah, well, the federal budget was 3.8 trillion. So there's no way we spent more than our federal budget.
No.
But I'm going to help you out. It's probably billion. Did you say trillion or billion?
It's trillion. It's done by the International Monetary Fund. And probably it's not.
It's not possible. I mean, I'm sorry to.
I'm not saying just in the United States.
Oh, okay, worldwide. All right, then that might be conceivable.
Right.
Sure.
So I mean, yeah. But anyways, so I would say instead of subsidizing these fossil fuels companies, I would say that take these subsidies to renewables and other forms of cleaner energy that would be beneficial to the environment while still pertaining economic
Fair enough. Last question. So where do we get the cobalt to make the batteries, and what do we do with them? No, I'm asking. Where do you recommend we get the cobalt to make the batteries?
Wait, can I answer? So like your argument is about this mining argument, right? Like.
No, I'm asking a question, dude. Like where do we get it from? Yeah, so then how about this? How and where should we dispose of the incredibly acidic, sometimes radioactive batteries that electric vehicles use? Where should we dispose of them?
But that argument, you see, it's a straw man because you're just.
Answer the question.
No, I am answering question. I am literally answering your questions, right? So you're arguing about this renewable energies and their batteries and how they cause environmental harm, right?
I've asked a question. I'm not making an argument. What should we do with the batteries once we use them?
I'm saying that's a straw man because you can't.
Straw man question. That's a first. I've never been accused of a straw man question.
Because you have an underlying premise in your question that renewable energies exist in a vacuum, but you can't do that. That's not comparative analysis. You have to compare renewables with fossil fuels, with fracking and stuff.
Right. All right, pal. How about this? How about this? You can't answer the question because deep down you know that cobalt-powered batteries are worse for the environment than liquid and natural gas and nuclear power. So you come up on here to try to virtue signal, I love the environment, but as soon as you ask me about the incredibly environmentally inefficient, destructive, animal-killing, acidic-producing batteries, you're a strong man. You're out of time. Thanks for being here tonight. Next question.
Hey, Charlie.
No, you're the racist. You're the says that abortion lowers crime rates and blacks have the most abortions in the country. Yes. It's not name calling. Wait, is it not Black Lives Matter or is it African American Lives Matter?
It's both.
Oh, really? Okay, I thought it was BLM, so I say blacks. Okay.
He was just, okay, not too much, Andrew. Do you believe that you have some sort of privilege that skews your view on other people's lives? Because personally, I don't believe you could step in my shoes as a black woman and relate and understand the things. So I feel like it's not fair for you to choose what I get to do with my life because I'm a black woman in a white society.
What does being black have to do with truth?
Because there are different things that we experience,
Like what?
and my truth might not be your truth.
What, did you get into college easier than I do?
What?
Yes, you get jobs and internships that white kids don't get.
Oh, poor white people.
You have entire movements dedicated to your race.
We're so like.
Okay.
Sir, do you remember those movements are to get rights. You're crazy. Okay,
Do you not believe in racism?
Of course racism exists. The Democrat Party is still alive and well.
Do you think people are racist against white people?
All the time. All the time.
That's his definition.
Affirmative action is racism against white people. Yes.
Okay.
And Asians as well.
And Asians, that's right.
So I do have a question in that sense. If affirmative action is racism, why are most colleges predominantly white?
Why are they most predominantly white?
Why are most colleges, public colleges, are predominantly
Yeah,
white?
we're a majority white country. You realize that, right? So colleges are the depiction of the nation.
Okay.
And actually, blacks on campus are disproportionate more than their population in certain areas, in certain campuses, than their population because of affirmative action.
In HBCUs? Is that what
Certain
you're talking
campuses.
about? Are you talking about HBCUs?
So, but let me just ask a more broad philosophical question. Why does skin color matter at all? Why should we care about it?
Because of the society we live in.
Wait, hold on.
Because of the
But
society
no.
You're dismissing anything that has ever happened to someone of
Let me
color
ask
by
you a
saying
question.
that.
What can you do, or what can I do that you can't do?
Explain
What
how
law?
affirmative action works. Explain how
Affirmative action is lowering of tests, standards, and quota for a
Wrong.
quota.
You're an idiot.
No, it's
I'm
not.
gonna tell you
It's
how
the
it
way
works.
it works.
I'm gonna tell you how it works. 'cause I read
talk.
it.
It's the way it works.
Just
I'm
let
not
him
going to
talk.
entertain fallacies.
No,
Tell me,
you won't
why,
entertain me because I.
Just let him
Why-
talk. We have to hear your fallacies.
It's fine.
why does skin color matter?
Let him talk. Well, don't
I
call him an idiot.
believe skin
Be
color
respectful.
matters
He's being
because of the
respectful.
society
He's not
we
being
are
respectful.
in.
Do you know how
And I
this
guess
shit
it goes
works?
into
It's called
critical
rights.
race theory.
Removing
Yes,
rights
it is.
is
Because of the
disrespectful.
society we have
I'll
lived
do it
in,
too.
race
I'll
is
do
a
it too.
factor. If from the beginning of time race wasn't a factor, and there was never anybody who was oppressed because of their race, I feel like it would not play a part in anything that we do. But because literally less.
Oh, it's just Charlie.
They were interrupting you. I was.
Do you believe on black crime?
Do I believe in black on black crime?
Yeah.
It's abundant.
Explain.
Yeah, it's the number one cause of death in many black communities. I mean, I'm just being honest. Like,
He is right.
Okay.
So back to our previous argument that was interrupted. So in the sense of what, like I was saying, you don't believe like because of the history and because races have been oppressed, you don't believe like race plays a part in things, and you don't believe like.
no, that's not true. No. So, do you know who Thomas Sowell is? You know who Thomas Sowell is?
No.
I really encourage you to look. Thomas Sowell's great. He's one of the best black economists of the 20th century. Grew up in Harlem, and he's done the best research in the 1940s, 1950s, and 60s black community. And essentially, His argument is that Black America was experiencing a renaissance in the 50s and 60s, despite discrimination. Yes. Now, the one part that I would agree with.
But, however, it's not the black community as a whole, it's Harlem black community.
There's Chicago too, but let's pretend you're right, okay? The one argument that I would agree with, and I'm against systemic racism arguments, the one that I would say, you know what, there was something very wrong is when Democrat Lyndon Baines Johnson came in and destroyed the black nuclear family. If there was one part where I could say, you know what, that was unjust and that has to be undone, it's when Lyndon Baines Johnson went in through the Great Society program with the intent to destroy the black nuclear family.
Okay. Sure. So in that sense, do you believe the war on drugs also played a part? Or
Not
do you not
really.
believe in the war on drugs?
Well, look, I mean, I believe we should be very harsh on drugs, but I think I would give some merit to the argument of some government agencies peddling cocaine in the inner cities. There is evidence to show that. I'm not going to debate it. Do I think it has so for example, like there's one number that I'm fascinated with, right? Single motherhood in the black community was about 28% in 1945. Okay? Now it's around 65 to 70%. Why? Are we more racist than we were in 1945?
No.
Okay. So then what happened?
The war on drugs.
Okay,
the
fair
war
enough.
on drugs. The demolishing the nuclear family in a sense.
Right,
And
we
I
agree.
believe due to the history that's happened, racism is still very prevalent in a lot of this a lot of the systems that are in America, correct?
Yeah. So no, of course not. But I was actually caught by your shirt. You know, Malcolm X was super pro-life.
Yes.
I think Malcolm X could teach a lot of the black movement something, because more so than Martin Luther King, because Malcolm X, I'm getting there. Malcolm X, some people don't describe him correctly as being violent, right? That was a very small part of his literature. He was very big on trying to get black America to succeed despite the white liberal.
Yes.
And
not the white liberal.
He did say white liberal. Oh, you go look up the Malcolm X white liberal quote. And so I think that's interesting. Just think about it. Go look up Malcolm X warned against white liberals owning black America for their own gain, which is exactly what BLM is.
Okay, so back to my initial point. Back to my initial point. You don't believe that my truth can be different than yours, specifically based on race.
Experiences can be different, but there is always a truth. I'll give you an example. We all might have 5 different opinions of a car crash, right? But eventually a truth will be revealed of what really happened. Does that make sense?
So you believe that your truth is the truth that you have found yourself is the ultimate truth?
I would hope so. Yeah.
Super.
And I'm willing to learn.
And then make America great again.
Otherwise, I think Malcolm X could teach us a lot right now.
I want to hear his views on his racist views. I want to hear.
Oh, you think I have racist views?
I do.
Name one thing I've ever said that's racist.
You said,
one
can I be
thing.
a black person?
Yes, as a joke, because I don't believe anyone should joke around with that.
Don't joke about no shit like that.
Why?
Ever.
Why? I don't believe people should joke about being something that they're not.
Don't make a spectacle out of it. If you're here to do a job and be professional, do that on every scale.
But you said I have racist views. How dare you say something like that?
Because of the comment that you made about 5 minutes ago.
How is that a racist view?
And I'm going to the president because it made me feel some type of way. How about that?
Wait, do you need a safe space? Did I trigger you?
You asked the institution if I need a safe space.
Wait, so you're going to the president for what reason?
I'm going to the president because of what you said.
What did I say?
Can I be a black person? And
Yes,
in
a sequence of questions where I said identity should not be
It
fluid.
doesn't matter, and now it's going to be a sequence of motherfucking planks when I go to the president.
Oh, yeah! Go, be my guest.
Come on, little Trump. Let's go, little Trump. Let's get it.
Let's
go, little Trump. Let's go to the president's office together.
Let me ask you a question.
You
Are you happy that under President Trump, black unemployment's the lowest it's ever been? Are you happy that black unemployment's the lowest it's ever been?
Is trying to catch people.
That's what I'm saying. That's on my
so this little organization.
Don't give that attention.
You mean the organization that's on 1,300 college and high school campuses?
He's not listening.
Absolutely, I just want you to.
You're just giving in. You sound like the anger. You coming at me. You sound like him. You let him get me.
Like, how is America racist?
All right. Are you familiar at all with the concept of structural racism?
Yeah, it's a myth.
No, it's not.
So tell me why it's true.
Okay, so
not outcomes. Tell me why it's true.
So the textbook that you hearken back to in the 1950s, right? I found one of those in Virginia. It was in publication from 5. Yeah, and so when we think about like how do you design curriculum that's historically accurate, that doesn't talk about oppression, that doesn't talk about one group being oppressed over the other, right? And so when you look at that Virginia textbook, I certainly don't argue that that's what we're looking at heading back towards. But my guess is if you were to try to write a curriculum that covers, slavery in the U.S. or the, Holocaust or whatever, and not, give the narrative that this group did this horrible thing to the other group, you're going to have to rely on some pretty...
But it wasn't groups, though. That's incorrect. Not every white person was a slave owner.
Well, that doesn't matter, though, because,
9 out of 13 states abolished slavery by the time of constitutional
and here's the other
ratification.
thing. I mean,
it's not like every white person was supportive. In fact, we had abolitionists at the time of the founding.
Exactly.
So why would you say one group?
Well, I mean, it's not. You don't have to have every white person.
No, in fact, the majority of white people found slavery to be reprehensible at the founding.
I don't know that if we would have pulled segregation.
No, we did actually
in the 50s. We would have found that.
Let's start with slavery. 9 out of 13 states abolished slavery by the time of constitutional ratification.
Yeah, then why did the South secede?
Well, they seceded post-Cotton Gin for economic reasons. We went to war over it, though. To say that America...
No, you guys, the South declared war because they expected Lincoln to ban slavery.
And he ended up doing it.
Well, not for a long time. You know why? Because he wanted the fight to be about national unity, which is a good way to, I think, come wrapping around, right? National unity. So the first few years of the Civil War, he did not expressly say this war is about ending slavery.
He got to it.
And he later got
Cooper
to that
Union address,
because the South was more passionate and the North needed
No, I know, but let's go. I mean, but you said something I want to focus on, though. One group doing something to the other. Like, that's just not true, right? It would be a small group of white people that exploited incorrectly a group of black people.
I think the crowds that would show up for the lynchings, according to research that I've read, numbered in like 5,000. And they would mail, they would take pieces.
Why was slavery being abolished?
Pieces of like these people's bodies
I'm not supporting
souvenir them, right?
That's a
but like that is not a small,
argument.
that's not a small group of people. That's not an isolated event.
But, I mean, in certain states it was widespread.
A massive systemic problem, right?
9 states abolished it. Thomas Jefferson wrote in the original draft of the Declaration to King George, admonishing him for bringing slavery. The first ever anti-slavery convention was in Philadelphia, chaired by Benjamin Franklin in 1775. Thomas Jefferson got rid of the importation of new slaves in 1807. Guess what? None of that stuff's taught in our schools right now.
But don't you think that there's a reason that a lot of the black community doesn't have a father, and it's because of systemic racism? It's because black men are more likely to be in prison.
Oh yeah, so why do people go to prison?
For a lot of the time it's because they're in poverty and they have no other way to get.
Okay, so they commit crimes.
Because
Yeah, but so wait, so wait.
Why do they
So wait, if you're
commit crimes?
So in poverty we should give excuses for committing crimes?
Yes, because if they have no
murder?
I did not say murder. I said I'm saying if someone is stealing something because they have no money and there's no jobs.
That's so interesting. So you think most crimes are crimes of necessity in the black community?
I'm not saying most.
So gangbanging is a crime of necessity?
That I literally never said that. I'm saying
But you're making an argument of crimes of necessity. They're so hungry they can't handle it.
I'm talking about crime that has to do with getting food, getting stuff that you need to live.
Right, but we have food stamps for anyone that needs it, so that doesn't exist. We have subsidized housing for anyone that needs it, so that doesn't exist. We have free health care for any poor person that wants it, called Medicaid, that doesn't exist. We also have welfare, cash, for anyone that wants it, so that doesn't exist. So what is it they're missing that they need to go, sorry about that.
Well, the food, a lot of food stamps might not cover all of what they need, and also housing is there's not unlimited housing. A lot of people who are unhoused have to go to shelters, and then they get kicked out of shelters because there's a mandatory stay limit. So it's not you just get a house.
It's not a stuff thing, though, right? It's if you need stuff, there's also tons of charities out there that can provide assistance. Churches, you will not go hungry in this country. You will not starve in this country.
Yes, you will. There's
no, we have an obesity problem.
Yeah,
we have an obesity problem, not a starvation problem in this country.
What are you talking about?
In State Street, if any one of those people went to the local Episcopalian church or Methodist church, they will get fed.
True.
I guarantee it. If they go to a local food shelter, they will get fed.
Okay, but I'm talking, housing.
For housing. If we have Section 8 subsidized housing in this country, right? If you want to have a roof over your head, you can have a roof over your head.
With thousands of rules and you can't
yes,
do
of
any.
course, yes. I mean,
Like-
it's not ideal, but the point is this. So let's just go back to the crime and necessity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why do people commit crimes?
I'm not saying why all people commit crimes. I'm saying there are people who commit crimes because they have no other choice.
Got it. So why is it that other people that are as poor as they are in separate racial groups don't
that's
commit
common
crimes
crime.
at the same rates? For example, blacks are 13% of the population and they commit over 50% of the crimes. Why is that?
Black people, I would say, not blacks.
Okay,
but
it's not. I could say whites and you wouldn't care. So
Anyway,
now, hold on. Right? I can say Hispanics, you wouldn't care. So don't
I think
police
I might,
my language.
But whatever. I'm not policing your language. I'm just saying I would say black
Fair
people.
enough. But the insinuation is that I'm being racist. But that's fine.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
your opinion.
Yeah, but so black Americans are 13% of the population and commit anywhere between 50 to 56% of murders, crimes, carjackings. Why is that?
Well, what percentage of the white population is living in the same level of poverty?
Got it. So there's twice as many white Americans in poverty as black Americans. Not the same percentage, but still, if you look at white Americans in poverty, they commit far less crimes than black Americans in poverty. Why is that?
Maybe it's because when you're in a store, like they follow black people and they don't follow white people.
What about murder?
That is an excuse.
Rural?
No, but why is it that, like, just saying murder, why is it that black people commit so many more
white people
murders?
live in rural
Like, that's not, you're being followed in a store and you commit more murders?
Yeah.
You're making the role, or I'll get to you in a sec, but
Okay,
it's not,
anyway.
it's not a good argument. But let me just go back to one thing you said. Systemic
Whatever, you're
racism,
good.
right? So the idea of systemic is that it's
Yeah.
within our laws.
Mm-hmm.
There are some black Americans here listening. What can you as a white American do that the black American cannot do?
Nothing.
Let's see. I could go into a store and not get followed. The police could not track me down on when I'm driving. I'm less likely to get shot and killed while I'm driving. There's a lot of things that I can do.
Okay, so just be clear. So if you walk into a local CVS here, how would you guys be treated differently?
Well, they would probably say hello, and they would probably just walk, let me in and not follow me, and then.
So these are a lot of probablys. I don't believe you, but I'm talking about laws, right? So what in the legal code of America can you as a white individual do that the black individual can't? Because systemic means it's in our code, right? It's for example, like Jim Crow, totally get it. That's systemic racism. What is systemically your advantage?
Maybe housing codes, because I know redlining isn't a thing anymore, but there is isn't there people who are white are more likely to be given loans because of they have less I don't know, that's just it's back from redlining, it's a lot of the same stuff.
So I don't buy into any of that. So I just kind of go.
You don't buy into redlining, or you don't buy
I don't buy
that
into redlining. I don't buy any of that stuff that happens today. In fact, it's the opposite. Loans are now given favorably to black Americans in certain cities over white Americans.
Okay, but
so we
you
could,
think
because
redlining?
I believe in, I know redlining existed.
Okay,
I don't debate that. Of course I have. But because of DEI and because of affirmative action, there's actually a preference given. But so let's go back to fathers, right?
Okay, let's go back to fathers.
So something happened to black America since 1965. So in 1965, so.
You mean the war on drugs?
Right. Well, so if that's your contention, that's fine. So in order to go to jail for the war on drugs, you have to be dealing drugs, right? Or you have to be caught with drugs. So if you don't
which is one of the main jobs that you can have in a poverty-stricken. If there's no jobs, you're going to do drugs. I mean, you're going to trade drugs because that's the only option
It's
you
such
have.
a difference in worldview. You're making excuses for criminals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what an insult to poor immigrants that came to this country that didn't commit crimes and worked 2 or 3 jobs and worked themselves out of poverty and didn't decide to go deal coke.
Well, my father is a white immigrant from Poland, and he committed crimes, and he's fine now. So
did he go to jail?
Yeah, he did.
I thought there was systemic racism. I thought that doesn't happen very much.
I never said white people don't go to jail. I said they go more, and you're saying that white immigrants are fine and they don't.
No,
I'm
it's
saying
far
that
less
do.
actually. I'm glad he went to jail if he committed a crime. I think it's terrible.
Yeah.
So,
well,
but at the core of it, we have a difference in worldview, right? My worldview is I'm not sympathetic to people that steal, that loot, and murder, because that's a values problem, and I don't like making excuses for people that do things that are obviously destructive. Secondly, we have a problem in Black America. The biggest problem is not racism. It's the lack of dads. If dads are around, kids flourish. And you know who agreed with me? Barack Obama. Barack Obama used to make this a central piece of his campaign. He came to this campus back in 2012, drew like a 100,000 person crowd, and talked about how we need to rebuild the black family and put dads back. Why doesn't the Democrat Party talk about that anymore?
I'm fine with having fathers. I'm not against having black dads.
For sure. I'm saying, but don't we agree? Has anyone heard that mentioned on the national scale in the last 10 years? Yeah, I mean, we've heard about
Probably
like
not.
Yeah, and
because
why
there's
is that?
bigger issues.
No, there isn't. See, that's the issue. Is that this is what makes us different. As a conservative, I focus on if you have family breakdown, don't worry about climate change. Don't worry about systemic racism. All that stuff is like these crazy abstractions.
Well, you can create family problems. Systemic racism creates family problems. If you take away black people from their families, then they're going to have broken families.
Okay, so but that's interesting. How are you taking them away? Aren't they leaving? They're not staying with the women they're impregnating. So, for example, there 13% of the population is black. Not every single person ends up in jail, obviously, and yet there's huge child abandonment because there's a cultural expectation that is different in black America than in white America, which is it's okay to impregnate a woman and abandon her in black America. It's not
based on what? What is that based on?
That's a good question. Where does it come from? It's just based on.
No, I'm saying what is that like your view of black America?
Well, it's not a view. It's true. I mean, don't take my word for it. Look at Thomas Sowell and Shelby Steele that have done amazing analysis on this. It's that in black culture, that is not considered to be a stigma. In white upper middle class culture, for those of you that grew up in Waukesha or Libertyville or grew up in Hinsdale or grew up in Naperville, you guys all know those neighborhoods. If you impregnate a girl, a woman, and you just like abandon her, that's frowned upon. That is a social stigma in upper middle class white culture.
And it's not in black culture?
No. In fact, it's glorified by the rap culture.
Hi, y'all. So before I ask my question, I want to clarify a point that y'all mentioned earlier. You said you don't believe in white privilege, correct?
Yeah, it's a myth. It doesn't exist.
Okay. So according to the Bureau of Prison Statistics from last month, 38.3% of our current inmate population is black. But according to the 2020 census data, only 12.2% of our national population is black. So if you don't believe in white privilege, how do you explain this disparity?
So why are they in jail?
It has been this way for years, since the 90s.
No,
since
why do people go to jail?
Why are black people in jail at higher rates than white people?
That's the question, right? Maybe because they
Yes.
commit more crimes than white people.
True.
But that's not true.
That's true.
It actually is.
They do. So every independent analysis shows that blacks have commit a disproportionate amount of crime. No one wants to say it out loud, but it's true. In fact, in New York, 52% of murders are committed by blacks, 40+% of arson, 60+% of drug deals. And so the question you should really be asking is what drives them to commit crimes? That's the question, right? The real question is, and maybe I can ask you, what percentage of blacks are raised with two parents in the home?
So actually, according to the Uniform Crime Report for 2019, black or African American individuals committed only about 1 million crimes, while white people committed about 4 million crimes.
But that's
hold on.
proportion.
Yeah, how about the proportion?
There's a lot more white people than black people in the United States.
It's a 60% white country
Black
and a
13%.
14% black country. So you just proved my point. You literally, so basically that's a disproportionate amount of crime.
True.
It is.
But listen, I want to say, look, you are coming up here and you're asking a question, and that's not easy to do, first and foremost, no matter what. And I really appreciate your question in front of all these people. It's hard. So thank you for asking your question. But let me point out what you just did, and you didn't know that you did it. You switched from proportion to raw numbers. And you did that to make a point that you thought you were making, but you weren't. But look, your issue was that black Americans only make up 13% of the population, and yet they make up, I think you said, like 38% of the prison population. And then you switched to raw numbers because, so black people only make up 13% of the population, but they commit 40% of all homicides and 60% of all violent crime. Unfortunately, I don't think that's anything inherent in black Americans. That's not what I'm saying. That's just the fact. And what Charlie is saying is, look, we've got to look at why that is. So you're claiming that that disparity is inherent proof of discrimination. So would you also say the fact that there are fewer Asians in jail means that than white people, that there is discrimination against white people? No? Disparity isn't proof of discrimination is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, so let me just throw, and Allie's exactly right. What percentage of blacks grow up with two parents in the home?
I don't know.
Yeah, less than 20%.
That's why there's so many blacks committing crimes and they're in jail. It's that simple. The death of the black family is why blacks are in jail higher than their population percentage. It's that simple.
May I see your criminology degree?
You don't need a degree.
I'm sorry.
No,
Wait.
we've gotta. Are you a biologist?
From an
Ketanji
expert
Brown
thing.
Jackson.
But no, let me ask you a question. So do I need a criminology degree to be able to understand that 75% of blacks don't grow up with two parents?
To be well versed in it, I believe so.
Do you have one?
I don't, but I'm studying it.
Okay,
right
but
now.
you
Oh, she studied it.
But you did the same thing. You looked at a statistic, and he did the same thing. You
Look,
don't have a criminology
Have you
degree,
even taken
neither
a
does
criminology
he.
course? Have y'all
Hold on
taken
a second. You're doing an argument from authority, okay?
It's a fallacy.
So the laws of physics don't change whether or not you're a physicist, okay? The law of thermodynamics doesn't change whether or not you take a course on it. Answer the question. Why do blacks have a broken family versus a nuclear family, and does that translate to higher rates of crime? Do you admit that?
Why is it that blacks don't have parents, though? Why?
Good question. We subsidize single motherhood in this country through the federal government of the United States. Great question. Now we're getting somewhere. Back in the 1960s, we put forward a program where black women married the government and broke up with the men they were with. Welfare state, Lyndon Baines Johnson, and that has contributed to blacks committing more crimes.
I believe institutionalized racism is your answer, but I don't believe I'm getting anywhere with y'all.
But no, just let me point something out. Did you know that it's not white Americans that have the lowest incarceration rate or the lowest rates of crime or the highest graduation rates or the highest median income? It's not white Americans. It's Asian Americans. They have the highest median income. They have the highest graduation rates.
True.
They have the most degrees. They have the lowest incarceration rates. And guess what? They also have the lowest single parenthood rates. Okay? So that is true across the board. It's not just black Americans. And unless you are willing to say that the reason why Asian Americans make more than white Americans or the reason why Asian Americans go to jail less than white Americans is because there is systemic institutional racism against white people in this country, then your argument against black people doesn't really work.
So let me ask you one thing. You said institutional racism. I got a black friend right up here. He's great. He's great. So let me ask you. Let me ask you a question. What can I do that he can't do?
Absolutely nothing.
What do you mean?
If institutional racism was real, what can I do that he can't do?
Well, you're less likely to get arrested.
Oh, jeez.
I'm sorry. No,
That's
if we
less-
both commit a crime, he's going to get arrested and I'm not?
He could.
Wait,
That's
so
a
we just
lie.
went through this. Blacks commit a disproportionate amount of crime in this country because of broken families. So give me one law on the books.
not because
You
of
said it's
broken
institutional. Give me a law anywhere that discriminates against blacks. Give me one law anywhere in America.
You want current or past?
How about right now?
Well, the fact that crack cocaine is criminalized more than regular cocaine.
No,
has
if I
disproportionate
deal
rates of the law against blacks.
if I deal crack cocaine, I'm getting arrested regardless of skin color. Give me a
But if you
law.
were dealing white cocaine, you're
Give
less
me a
likely
law
to get a harsher
anywhere
sentence.
that allows white people to commit crimes and get away with it and blacks can't. Does that law exist?
Not anymore. But that
Because
doesn't
there's
mean
no
it's not real.
institutional racism in America.
Because there-
The idea of institutional racism is laws on the books.
Just because it's not down on paper doesn't mean it's not real.
Okay, give us an example. Not just
God.
a disparity. Not just a
God?
disparity.
God isn't. You don't see God.
He's on paper. Read the Bible.
I didn't mean it like that. I'm getting nowhere with y'all, and y'all are not answering my question, so I'm going to end this Q&A right here. Thank you for your time.
We actually did answer her questions, but I do appreciate, even though she's got an attitude, I do appreciate her courage. I do. That is difficult. That's difficult
Yeah,
to
I mean,
come up
it's
here and ask
difficult,
a
but
question,
see,
but you can also do it respectfully.
But what bothered me about her, I'm glad she was there. She wasn't being honest. At least be honest, okay, and be willing to be corrected. Well, that was a fun fireworks show to end our time together, right?